Our movie today begins with a man named Tommy who is walking through the street like a madman. Suddenly, he attacks a police officer and beats him right in the middle of the street for no apparent reason. As soon as officers and soldiers gather around him, Tommy looks happy and calmly turns himself in without any resistance. He is taken to court and sentenced to 2 years in Gravesend Prison on charges of assaulting a police officer. Strangely, he laughs and seems happy with the verdict. When he returns to the station, the officer he assaulted beats him badly to teach him a lesson. After that, Tommy is placed in a transport vehicle and taken to prison. On the way, he remembers his girlfriend, Eliza. When he arrives at the prison, 2 officers receive him, one of them named Nash. They take his personal belongings and give him prison clothes. Then he is sent to a psychologist to determine whether he is peaceful or violent and whether he enjoys aggression. The doctor notices that he is actually a kind person, but she is confused by the deep depression he is suffering from. The officers then take Tommy to his cell. He looks around and notices prisoners throwing burning tissues soaked in lighter fluid as part of a riot. At that moment, they discipline a prisoner named Harry, and before leaving, they warn him not to cause trouble or disobey orders, threatening him with solitary confinement. Suddenly, the alarm bell rings. Guards call Nash and inform him that a prisoner has committed suicide. Nash rushes to the scene and finds the prisoner already dead. Harry then speaks to Tommy and tells him that from time to time, a prisoner hangs himself to escape the misery of prison. Harry asks Tommy why he came to prison, and Tommy tells him he is there to carry out justice. Harry becomes frightened and tries to avoid him. Nash, meanwhile, is upset because the incident puts him in trouble. That we then go back a little in time and see riots and destruction across the country. During the chaos, a young man named Jake, along with his friends Mason, Angel, and Isui, decide to take advantage of the unrest and rob a large jewelry store. They prepare themselves, ride motorcycles, smash the shop, and steal all the jewelry. When the security guard tries to stop them, Jake shoots and kills him. They escape quickly, hide the motorcycles in a warehouse, steal a car, and continue moving. Mason argues with Jake because he never wanted to get involved in murder. Jake takes the stolen goods to his girlfriend Gabby, asks her to hide them, takes a watch from her, wears it, and leaves. Mason later asks Jake to give him a ride home so he can check on his wife and daughter. On the way, they encounter a police patrol. When the police discover the car is stolen, they try to arrest them. The group runs, but is eventually caught. At this point, we see Tommy in the past, working as a construction laborer. His life is calm and stable. He avoids trouble and does not use drugs for the sake of his girlfriend Eliza. After work, he visits Eliza at the hospital and learns she is pregnant. She is upset because he arrived late, and Tommy begs her to forgive him. When she tells him the baby is a boy, he is overjoyed. They leave together extremely happy. On their way out, Tommy bumps into a thug but refuses to fight him and walks away. Back in the present, Nash wakes the prisoners and orders them to move quickly. They go down to the cafeteria, where Harry tells Tommy that the food is terrible. Tommy begins to meet other prisoners, including a group that has converted to Islam, led by a man named Maki. They ask Tommy if prisoners are being killed in the prison. Harry denies it and explains that prisoners commit suicide. Tommy asks about Mason, Isui, and Jake. Suddenly, Angel provokes Tommy for no reason, throws his food on the floor, and laughs. While Jake laughs at his friend's behavior, the prisoners go to the yard. Tommy stands aside and observes from a distance. He notices that Nash is close to Jake and has a good relationship with him. Harry confirms this and also tells Tommy that Mason and Jake are constantly fighting, which is why Mason joined Maki's group. Later, a prisoner tries to buy drugs from Jake. When Jake mocks him, the prisoner gets angry and attacks him, but Jake and his group beat him badly while Nash pretends not to notice. Tommy is later assigned cleaning duty. While working, he sees Nash entering Jake's cell. It becomes clear that Nash uses drugs with them and protects them, which is why he ignores their crimes. That we return to the past again and see Eliza interrogating Jake. We learn she is a probation officer. She tries to question him calmly, but he becomes aggressive and tells her he has no family. His mother allowed her lover to abuse him as a child. Eliza realizes he is psychologically disturbed and tries to calm him, but he storms out. Isui attacks her, but Jake stops him, reminding him that the place has cameras. Later, Eliza hears on the news about the jewelry store robbery and realizes the watch Jake is wearing contains a rare gemstone. She understands that they are behind the robbery. Jake decides to kill her before she reports them and orders Mason to do it. When Mason refuses, Jake threatens him. After finishing work, Eliza leaves frightened and calls Tommy, crying, asking him to come home quickly. As soon as she gets into her car, a masked man attacks her, smashes the window, and beats her until she loses consciousness. Back in the present, Tommy studies the locations of the surveillance cameras. He approaches Isui and asks for drugs, agreeing to go to his cell to get them. After Jake and his group leave the room, Tommy sees them selling drugs in the hallway. Later in the gym, the prisoner who was beaten by Jake attacks Angel with a knife, trying to kill him. Angel punches him, and when the prisoner begs Nash for help, Nash pretends not to see anything. Jake and his friends then brutally beat the prisoner, and Jake slashes his face with a knife. The alarm rings, and officers take the injured prisoner to the doctor. That we return to the past again and see Eliza in the hospital, her face disfigured. Tommy sits beside her, devastated. When she wakes up, he tries to find out who attacked her, but she refuses to tell him. The police interrogate Jake and Mason but fail to get information. They are jailed only for car theft. That Eliza's condition worsens. She suffers severe bleeding and loses her unborn child. Back in the present, Tommy trains violently, screaming in pain and rage. Mason converts to Islam and spends time with Maki. Tommy confronts him, telling him that converting will not erase his sins. Mason says he wants to repent and asks for help, but Tommy walks away. Later, Tommy attacks Isui brutally, revealing that Eliza was his lover. Isui tells him Jake was behind the attack because he feared Eliza would report them. Tommy nearly kills Isui, leaving him permanently disabled. That we then learn that Eliza can no longer have children. She leaves Tommy despite his pleas. Determined to avenge her, Tommy investigates who attacked her, discovers they are in prison, and intentionally assaults the officer to get incarcerated. Back in the present, Harry confronts Tommy about what he did to Isui. Tommy explains everything and says he will never rest until he gets revenge. From there, during their conversation, Jake and his friends call for Tommy and take him to their cell. Jake tells him that he knows very well that Tommy was behind what happened to Isui. He assures him that he is not upset about it, because Isui had recently been working on his own, and they had already wanted to get rid of him. The next day, Tommy goes to the prisoner whose face Jake had slashed and asks him for help. Tommy tells him that he wants to take revenge on Jake and his friends and asks him to teach him how to make a weapon like the one he used before. The prisoner agrees, but only in exchange for Tommy getting him his revenge as well. He begins teaching Tommy how to make a weapon out of a plastic toothbrush. Tommy carefully follows every instruction until he successfully makes the weapon. After that, Nash comes to Tommy and tells him that he is happy about Tommy joining Jake and his group. Tommy tells Nash that Jake said he would help them, and Nash confirms that he will support Tommy just as he supports Jake and his crew. Later, Mason comes to talk to Tommy and advises him to stay away from Jake and his group because they are dangerous. Mason tells him that he has left all his mistakes behind for the sake of his wife and daughter. Tommy listens but says nothing. At the same time, Nash gets into a fight with another officer because Nash steals the shoes and clothes that are meant for the prisoners. We realize that Nash is suffering from financial problems, which have created an inferiority complex that makes him hate everyone around him. He releases this hatred by beating and torturing the prisoners. Later, Angel drags Harry into the bathroom and attacks him, forcing him to call his family and demand money in exchange for leaving him alone and stopping the beatings. At that moment, Tommy enters the bathroom and attacks Angel with all his strength. However, Angel's fighting skills are superior, and Tommy cannot overpower him. Then fate intervenes. Angel slips on soap on the floor, falls, hits his head, and dies instantly. Tommy and Harry quickly leave the bathroom before anyone sees them and return to their cell. Tommy hides the weapon he made. Harry thanks Tommy for saving him, and Tommy tells him he did it out of revenge. He explains that his wife was pregnant and that they beat her until she lost their child. They later go out to the prison yard. Harry agrees to help Tommy take revenge. All the prisoners stare at them, fully aware that Tommy was behind what happened. Jake becomes furious, while Mason clearly shows fear and anxiety. They return inside the prison. Tommy attacks one of Jake's men in the bathroom, choking him until he loses consciousness. Then Tommy goes to Jake and confesses that he was responsible for the deaths of Angel and Isui and reminds him of what he did to Eliza. Suddenly, one of Isui's friends enters, and they all gang up on Tommy, beating him in revenge for their friends. Before they can finish him off, Nash enters and tells them that they are going to cause him serious trouble. Nash takes Tommy away and throws him into solitary confinement. Jake then goes to Mason and orders him that once he gets out of prison after 2 weeks, he must kill Eliza. When Mason refuses, Jake threatens to sexually assault Mason's young daughter. Mason drinks until he becomes drunk, then goes to Tommy's solitary cell and beats and tortures him. After that, the prison psychologist passes by the solitary cells. When she sees them, immediately goes to the prison warden and tells him that Nash is selling drugs to prisoners and torturing them in solitary confinement. The warden confronts Nash and orders him to release the prisoners from solitary. The psychologist releases Tommy and begins treating him. The warden becomes angry with Nash, but Nash speaks arrogantly and reminds him that the warden is officially responsible for the prison, meaning any investigation would hold him accountable. Fearing trouble, the warden decides not to report Nash. Later, Mason visits Tommy in his cell and tells him again that he had nothing to do with Eliza's assault and that he refused to hit her. Because of that, Jake decided to carry it out himself. Mason tells Tommy that Jake asked him to kill Eliza after his release and threatened to harm his daughter. Mason begs Tommy to kill Jake, saying that Jake will destroy his daughter's life if he remains alive. Mason leaves. When they enter the prison cafeteria, Harry suddenly stands up and shouts at the prisoners, telling them that the food is terrible and that they deserve to be treated better than this. He encourages them to rebel. The prisoners respond, and a riot breaks out. They attack Nash and the guards, beating them badly, with Nash receiving the worst of it. During the chaos, he finds him, and a violent fight breaks out between them. Jake is stronger and more skilled in combat, and he manages to overpower Tommy at that moment. Backup forces arrive and attempt to regain control of the prison and suppress the riot. While they are fighting, Jake admits to Tommy that he was responsible for what happened to Eliza and tells him that once he gets out of prison, he will finish her off. Hearing this, Tommy completely loses control. He pulls the knife from his pocket and stabs Jake directly in the heart, killing him. Tommy begins screaming hysterically, especially after losing one of his eyes due to Jake's attack during the fight. The riot control team carries Tommy away and takes him to the hospital. Afterward, Mason is released from prison and decides to start a new, clean life, leaving his criminal past behind. When Tommy leaves the hospital with only one eye, he becomes the leader of the prisoners. All the inmates respect him and fear him at the same time. And with that, the events of our movie come to an end. Don't forget to like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any new content. Leave your opinion in the comments below, and see you in the next movie summaries.